John had a question. We'll just see if I can answer his question. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Mark. I was going to ask the equal parenting thing that we're asking is for fit parent, essentially. But I wanted to ask you what happens when a parent is unfit with a custody time or visitation time.
So you want to know when a parent is unfit?
Yeah.
Well, that would have to be following a criminal trial. Because if a parent, the only way by law, the only way that a child can be taken away from a parent is if that parent is found unfit. And the criteria for unfitness is a showing of immediate harm to the child, right? So that would have to be like child abuse, child neglect, child abandonment, some crime for which you should have a jury trial in criminal court. Okay, that's my understanding of the law. And so if you were found guilty by, for one of those crimes by a jury, which you're entitled to, anytime there's a criminal trial, you're entitled to a jury. And it must be a unanimous verdict of guilty. If it's not, then there's an acquittal. But if you're found guilty of that crime, you're sentenced to jail or whatever, and for that period of time, if you're sentenced to a year in jail, you go to jail, and then it's my view that you should be able to come back and still be a parent to your child. But now we just say we kick parents out just for no reason at all. The courts act like there is no Constitution, there is no Bill of Rights, and they keep you out of criminal trials with this so-called family court. Family destruction court is what it really is. So.
Okay, yeah, Mark. I was going to ask, maybe not a parent that's not unfit to the level of criminal. Just maybe somebody that's abusing alcohol or abusing drugs or something like that, who hasn't actually even caused any harm to the child, but he just has some problems. Like abusing alcohol. He's an alcoholic, let's say that.
Well,
he's an alcoholic.
if he's not causing,
he's drunk addict.
well, if that would be, I would say that's abuse. I mean, if it's to the point, we're allowed to drink in this country. There's no law against drinking alcohol, right? And there shouldn't be laws against smoking marijuana. Now, just because somebody smokes pot once in a while, does that mean you're an unfit parent? I don't think so. It's because you have a glass of wine or a couple glasses of wine at night. I don't drink myself, but it doesn't make you a bad parent. There's hundreds of millions of people across this country who are drinking every day at homes with their kids. So,
okay.
I mean, unless somebody can show some crime, if they can show evidence that you have neglected your child because of your drug abuse or your alcohol abuse, that would be a crime. Okay, it should be taken to criminal court, not the family court. You're neglecting your child because you're drunk or you're high on pot or speed or whatever. It's a crime. You are unfit, but it is a crime. Okay, if you're not behaving yourself as a parent, that's in my definition of child abandonment, child neglect, child abuse. What do you think?
Okay, I don't have the right answer or any answer right now. So okay, yeah. So I understand that. I want to find out what would be the because right now I think what they do right now is they take you to the psychologist, and the psychologist analyzes everything. And he comes up with a report or a recommendation for the court, and that's what the court goes by 80-90% all the time. But I want to ask you a different question. The question about the jury trial, that's something that when I went to the office of my representative, I was talking about that. And the clerk or the staff member that I was talking to, because they have a form that you have to fill out and there's a question about money, which I didn't understand why they would have that question about money. It's like, well, if you're proposing a legislation, how much is that legislation going to cost? Like in this case, if you want a jury trial for all family law cases, right? So there's going to be a lot that a lot of things to do and a lot of money that the state would have to spend to put on trials like that. And she told me that the reason that the governor will veto legislation that comes to his desk after it's passed both chambers is because of the cost that it would cost the state. So the governor will say we can't have a jury trial because we don't have that kind of money. We don't want to spend that kind of money, to put on a jury trial for everybody. So
Okay.
so
Yeah, right. That's what a lot of people say. Well, that's too bad. It costs a lot of money for a jury trial. I'm sorry, but that's the law. Fifth Amendment. No person. Wait a minute. Excuse me. Sixth Amendment. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. In other words, your peers. Which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him or her, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
right, Mark. But then you started with criminal prosecutions.
Yes, criminal prosecutions. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but family law is not criminal prosecution.
That's right. Family law doesn't follow this book, the Constitution.
Right, but when I'm saying
They're unconstitutional courts.
This is referring to the criminal prosecution.
Exactly.
Right.
Have you been accused of a crime?
No.
Well, why did you lose custody of your children? How many kids do you have, by the way?
Two kids,
Okay, how old are they?
6 and 9.
And how long ago did it happen?
5 years old.
Okay, in a family court.
Yeah.
Okay, you didn't have a jury trial.
No.
Were you accused of a crime?
No.
So what happened?
It's just the judge's decision.
You must have done something terrible, John.
No.
Come on, John.
Once the judge signs, that becomes a law. That becomes a note. That becomes a court order. Whatever he says.
Right.
whatever
Thank
he
you.
says.
You're right.
Yeah. Whatever he says.
Well, this is the problem. This is exactly the problem. Your judge is a treasonous son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay, he belongs behind bars. And every judge who denies you your constitutional rights belongs behind bars. If not hung by the neck until dead for treason, they are traitors to the Constitution.
Okay. So Mike, I wanted to ask you.
This is the law of the land, the
Yeah.
Constitution.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to ask you along those lines. Okay. Just from the governor's standpoint, right? So a bill comes to his desk, and he looks. I don't know how they do the budget, but money is a consideration. Because on that form that I ask you, they ask you this legislation that you're proposing. How much money do you estimate that's going to cost, right? So one of the concerns is the money. Okay, let me just finish the question to you. So I was thinking along those lines, what if money is a problem? Because in California, for example, after the Superior Court, you go to the Court of Appeals. And the Court of Appeals, they actually have 6 judges. And I think for each case that comes to the Court of Appeals, 3 judges get to preside, let's say preside over the case. And so I was thinking maybe if we can have like a full jury trial in the Superior Court, maybe we could use that model, right? At least ask for 3 judges to hear each case in the Superior Court. Or maybe that would be,
Unless if you're not accused of a crime, you don't belong in court. That's the problem. See, family court, it's a facade. Like I wrote this song about it. It's nothing but racketeering. It's fake. Okay, it's a counterfeit court, the family court. Um, this is a song called Slave Masters. Let me tell you how it will be. We're raping you for legal fees because we're your slave masters. If you protest against our crime, we'll take your money every time because we're your slave masters. If we steal your kid, you're bound to fight, spend money.
Yeah.
Right? You'll litigate with all your might. You'll spend every dime. We'll squeeze you tight. There'll be no end to your sad plight because we're your slave masters. The family court is a facade. The Constitution's been outlawed. There is no justice, only fraud. It's a big fraud. It's a counterfeit institution. Imposter judges playing God. Okay, they're your slave masters, and we're a multi-billion-dollar family destruction industry.
Yeah.
And I thank George Harrison for letting me borrow his tune there. That's the Taxman tune. Great song, by the way.
Yeah. So I was trying to address that the jury trial thing. You know, I mean, how do you get if the financial argument is the argument being put forward?
Here's the thing,
unless
John,
you provide the money, right?
John.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: the money. If we ever got, if our courts were real courts that followed the Constitution, there would be very few of these cases going and needing a jury trial. Because if you haven't committed a crime, there's no reason for you to be in court, right? You're born. You knock on any door around here where there's an intact family. There's a mom and a dad and there's kids. They have equal custody. Just because you walk in a courtroom doesn't allow the court to cut your family in half. If you decide to go your own ways, you still have equal custody. That's the law, okay? Unless you were found guilty of some crime. That's what people do not understand. I didn't understand it before. I used to go down to Richmond with the fathers in Northern Virginia, the groups, and we, trying to get equal shared parenting and all. And that's fine. If you're doing something in the right direction, that's great. I commend you. But I think you're barking up the wrong tree, and you're not focusing on the actual problem that we have is crooked judges. The judges are crooked. They're committing crimes. They need to be prosecuted. The Federal Code 18, Section 242, for acting under color of law out of their jurisdiction. They have no right to take your child away from you, absent due process of law, that has found you guilty of some crime. Child abuse, child neglect, child abandonment. And it's all hocus pocus. It's
Yeah, well, yeah, Mark, that's precisely what we're saying. Because like in California, you have to go see a psychologist when you go to court.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have a custody problem. The judge is going to say, "Well, I don't know how to solve this." You go see the psychologist. And the psychologist is what they use. Okay, so now you're making a good point because that's what we're saying. We're saying, well, let's go back and tell them that the psychologist is really not necessary. We already have equal custody, by virtue of the nature of the matter. It's already given like that. Unless you're right. Unless you find guilty of some crime, which most people don't. Most people are not found guilty of anything. So why use psychologists who are not scientists? Their findings are not scientific. Most of it is subjective. Yeah. So why even go there? So that's what we're saying. Let's go back to them and tell them, change this. Change this and make this equal. Write this down. Don't, because we go to court, the judge will say code. In California, it's actually called 730. It's code number 730. And then you also have code number 733. So it's written in a book like that. So they're going to tell you, well, according to this code, this is the process you're going to go through. So this is sort of we're saying, yeah, let's go back to them, tell them this isn't right. Please, change this?
You know, even if there were less cases, it doesn't matter. The judges and the governor are supposed to follow the law. Okay? The Constitution. They all swear an oath to uphold the Constitution. If it costs a lot more for juries, well, they got to get the money somewhere. They got to raise the taxes or whatever. But that's the law of the land, the right to jury trial. But the point is, I truly believe that if we had real courts and judges followed their oath, these are non-cases. They shouldn't be in court. Just because mother and a father decide to go their separate ways, they need to work it out between themselves. And you know, the whole thing with state marriage licenses, that's just a form of tyranny. You don't need a license from the state to get married.
Right.
Any more than this tree here, these trees here need a license to grow. I mean, it's just a natural process. Men and women get together. It's a biological process. They have children. Okay, it's got nothing to do with the government. It shouldn't have. But again, back to juries. There would be very few cases. So the money issue, that's like a straw man issue. Oh, it costs too much. Well, how do we know until we tried it? Have we ever tried following the Constitution and actually seeing how many of these cases are going to need to go to court? How many fathers or mothers are going to be accused of crimes before they're dragged into court? Instead of just because you get a divorce, you got to go and they got to cut your child in half? No. It's all a money-making machine, because these family lawyers have no interest in peaceful solutions. They only have interest in perpetuating the conflict. That's how they make their living. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Okay, Mark. Another question. Well, the issue, it's a simple issue, right? Equal custody, asking for equal custody, I think is simple enough. But it gets complicated when one of the parents wants to move away with the kids. So take the children 100 miles or 200 miles, or in my case, 1,800 miles. So in that case, what would be the solution?
Okay. The basic concept of liberty is you're free to do whatever you want as long as you don't violate somebody else's rights. Right? So a parent should not be able to move away unilaterally like that. If they want to agree to it, fine. But if you come in here and say, Mark, I'm taking over your demonstration, you have to leave. No, I have the right here. I've got the law on my side because I went through the process. And you can't do that, John. You know, you can't come in here and tell me that I can't have my demonstration. I'm here. I mean, it's a fact. I'm here. It's mine. And it's the same way with a family. It's your child. Nobody has a right to tell you, or to just look. I'm taking our kid to Paris, or to the North Pole, or wherever the hell.
Okay, so let me take
we have a child. We have to stay here. If we want to be in the child's life, we have to stay here, unless we agree otherwise.
Right. Okay, let me just tell you a little bit how they do it in California. I'm not sure how they do this in all states, but in California, what happens most of the time, since mothers get custody all of the time, so the state has gone along and said that since they have custody, they actually call them custodial parents. So that's where you get a term custodial parent and non-custodial parent. You know, so they say along with that, they say, well, once the parent has custody, there is now a custodial parent. That parent has the right to move away. For example, if they get married.
But stop right there.
Yeah.
Because how did they get custody? Was the other parent found unfit? If not, then that judge who made that order is a traitor. Okay? He's a crooked judge. He had no right, he had no authority to take away the other parent's custody. It's a God-given right. It's a fundamental right, just like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that Thomas Jefferson spoke of. Among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. That doesn't mean you don't have others. The 9th and 10th Amendment cover all the others that Jefferson didn't name or that weren't named in the Bill of Rights. The right to privacy, to the Second Amendment, right to bear arms. These are specifically cited in the Bill of Rights, but they're not at all exhaustive. We have other rights that are covered by the 9th and 10th Amendments. They're reserved to the states or to the people. Okay? And Congress has no business funding stealing our kids, which is what they're doing.
Okay, let's look, because this issue of move away, let's say two parents have, let's just say one son, and they divorce, and the other parent wants to remarry out of state. Right, a lot of time that's the situation that they bring up. They find a new husband out of state, or they got a new job out of state. So how should the arrangement be in that case?
That other mic is not working, so. Okay, well, again, it comes back to where did the family start, right? I mean, say if a woman gets pregnant and the guy moves off, he wanted to take a job elsewhere, but he decides he wants to come back into the child's life. I think he should be able to. If he has to move back to where the child is. I mean, he can't file for custody in another state and say, I want the kid to come over here with me, or vice versa. A mother can't do that. Just basic fairness, man. This is common sense. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. The courts are the ones who complicate things.
Well, if you wanted to conserve equal custody, and the one parent wanted to move a long distance away from the other, yeah.
Well, that's up to them if they want to agree to that. If they want to share.
Well, a lot of times, we're talking in the case where they disagree, right? And somebody else has to make that decision.
Right.
Yeah. So what should be the guidelines in that case?
Well, every case is going to be different. I can't speak for every case, but give me a scenario. What do you?
Okay, so I'm thinking, so the equal parenting. I think it's just something that is running through my head, because it's simple to just say, well, equal parenting, right? But then there's this issue of moving away. So you also have to resolve that with the same shot. So what I'm thinking is maybe you could say the parents get equal parenting no matter where the kids are living, no matter where. So if one parent move 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles, even out of the country, but if the other parent moved over there, wherever they were, he will still get 50%. And so the issue will move to become a financial issue. If they're able to arrange that, financially, it wouldn't be a custody issue anymore, because custody will be equal. Custody or visitation will be equal, right? So it will become a financial problem, whether they can, or maybe even because if you're working, if you have a job, you just can leave to go exercise, your 50% parenting time someplace else, because you probably had a job where you are, or something, or a business that you need to take care of, right? So it would be a loss, right? And so maybe I'm thinking maybe you could possibly shift this to a financial problem. It become a financial problem, not the custody and visitation problem.
Well, I'd say if you want to be in your child's life, you should, remain near the child. Ideally, that's why people stay married. It's the most financially, that's what a judge told me one time. He just thought it would be the best financial deal at that time was for the mother to stay with her parents. It was the best deal for everybody, financially. Well, that's not. The judge has no right to make that determination unless he found me unfit. Okay, that's just that's a straw man issue. You don't go with the best deal. You go with rights. You have a fundamental right to be a parent, unless you're unfit. So I'm not sure exactly, every situation's different. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, but if you want to be in the child's life, you need to stay near both the other parent and the child.
Yeah,
The
fundamental question mark is about the move away. Because, and also, and I'm not talking because some women are malicious too, because they just want to make you miserable by moving away and away and away. I have a friend whose wife did that.
Well,
so
okay.
she would move like.
Well, I call that child abuse. If a father has custody and moves away from the mother, I call that child abuse. You're abusing the child's rights to the other parent.
No, I'm talking,
Or if a mother, father,
yeah,
doesn't matter who.
Yeah. Mother moves like for 600 miles, and then she moves
Okay,
like.
that's child abuse. That's
800
child
miles.
abuse.
Yeah.
Mothers should lose custody until she comes back into the fold of parenthood, because she's become a non-parent at that point. She's become a thief.
Yeah. They found these.
He or she, it doesn't matter. The gender is irrelevant.
Yeah. They found all kinds of reasons, to do that, but the purpose is just to make the other guy miserable, or to have the other guy not being able to exercise any custody or visitation, just by moving around too often, to the point that it is even inconvenient for him.
Well, that's an excellent example of parental alienation. It's an alienating parent who does that, who would take a child away from the other loving parent, not unfit parent. We don't have perfect parents, but the child has a right to know both parents. And if the parent wants to be in that child's life, that's his God-given right. And that's, it's very simple. The courts complicate everything.
Yeah, so what they call it,
and they do that to make money.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Okay, so they use this concept called best interest of the child.
Yeah.
Okay. So and everything. I think everything that they have done on the best interest of the child is actually not the best interest of the child. Yeah, if I just take my own case, my kids are only 6 and 9. My ex-wife is taking my 9-year-old to see the psychologist because of this problem, and she's only 9 years old, and she started her own psychological visits because she's having mental issues based on this problem, right? So how can that be in the best interest of the child if you put a child in a situation where at 9 years old they're visiting psychologists to work on mental problems? Is that in the best interest of the child? Yeah, same.
It's all. It's called dilatory tactics, delay. It's how they delay in cases and perpetuate cases. When the judge, maybe the judge is having a bad day, so he says, I'm going to order psych evals for everybody. Let them take care of it, right? And doesn't even tell you have a right to a jury trial. So psychologists they have displaced our rights. We've brought this whole industry in. We've got psychologists, we got social workers, we got the child support Gestapo, tens of thousands of agents all across the country. You got Congress getting involved with it. Congress never had any business getting involved with family issues. 9th and 10th Amendments. Okay?
Okay, so yeah, that's another good issue, Mark. So you can talk about this family law issues without talking about fairness. So the reason that they got involved in the first place was because they were saying that some father, I am not even going to say a lot of fathers, I'm just going to say some fathers were evading child support by just moving to a different state, and because the federal government wasn't involved, a state couldn't enforce any child support collection activity in a different state, and so that's the reason why the federal government got involved in the first place. And to be fair, I don't mind paying, and I think most parents don't mind paying for their children or giving money. They will spend the money anyway. I don't know any parent that wouldn't buy clothes or school material for their kids, or shoes, or whatever, or computers, or whatever it is. Most parents do this. They love to do this. They know that they have to do it. They do this. But I think where it becomes a problem is when they ask too much. Like right now, they ask to do it in levels that are unreasonable and that are not fair. Most people would pay the money fairly if everything was fair, and the kids that's what they needed to grow up, because even if they stay with you in the same house, you would spend the same amount of money. So and that's something that's the government got involved in it, and I don't know that was constitutional, but that's what we have now. And I don't think that it's something that you can think about rolling back anytime soon. So we kind of stuck with it, I think. Yeah, whether you think that it's constitutional or not, I don't think that anybody would think, because you wouldn't solve the first problem, right? The problem of somebody having children in, let's just say, Virginia, and moving to Pennsylvania and being out of the whole thing. So how would you solve that problem otherwise? So that's the thing about it.
Parents can make an agreement to do whatever they like. I mean, if I have a child and I decide I don't want to be a father anymore, I'm gonna let you be the parent. Okay, if that's what you want to do, fine. So I mean, if you're the one moving out of state, then it's kind of on you. It's you created this situation. If you had stayed near your child, there wouldn't be no problem. There shouldn't be any problem. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I'm talking financially. I don't think that a lot of parents were doing that, but it's just a few parents, well, they were evading their financial responsibility by just moving to a different state. And since the state of Virginia can enforce a law in Pennsylvania, for example, right? Only the federal government has such powers. The federal government if it's a federal law.
So you're talking about a case where a parent is not meeting their financial obligations. Okay, well that's what child support is supposed to be. That's actual child support.
Yeah.
But if your kids were taken away from you when you had already been supporting them, you'd already been supporting them, okay? Mm-hmm. And they put a so-called child support order on you. Well, that was a lie. It wasn't actually child support because they took away your rights. They violated your rights to parenthood, and then they extorted money from you. It's not child support. Child support is the guy who moved away and doesn't want to pay. He's avoiding. Okay, that's what child support is supposed to be for, and I got no problem with that. Yeah.
Okay. So Mark, I'm asking you how, if you took the federal government out of this, right? How would you resolve the problem of the guy moving away and not paying child support in the state where he has children, right? Right. If you didn't have a federal law, because that's the reason that the federal government said they got involved in child support matter. Because you talk to everybody about family law, they will say that family issues is matter of state law. It's a state. It's not a federal issue. But the reason that the federal government got involved in it is so that they can collect the child support for people who move out of state to a different state.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the reason. So I'm asking you for, if you know how that problem could be solved otherwise, to get the federal government out of it. Because right now it's a case, and you're right. I don't think that it's that the people who wrote the Constitution intended for that issue to be the federal issue. However, because some people were not paying child support by just moving to a different state, the federal government got involved in it. And so what would be a different a different scenario, a different collection method?
Well, how do the states resolve any kind of interstate problem like that? Crimes. I mean, if you commit a crime in Virginia, you go to Maryland or West Virginia. Don't the states cooperate with each other?
No. I don't think you could. Yeah, that's why they have the federal group to take care of it. That's why there's federal law. The state law is going to be state law.
Okay.
Every state. So it's just like marijuana. Marijuana is illegal in New York. You couldn't smoke marijuana in New York because it's legal in California. They put you in jail. According to New York's law, it's still illegal. You gotta wait until they pass the law in New York. So state law only applies to that state. So, well, they might be because I've seen like Chase, right? Chase is on television. When you get a guy, he's like police chasing him, and when he crosses the state line, or he's about to cross the state line, the police officer would call, because the police officer they're not allowed to pursue past the state line. So they would call the different patrol and tell them, the guy is coming, So yeah.
So I think that answers your question, and the states can cooperate with each other. I don't know if the federal government, if we have to have a federal office of child support enforcement. I'm not sure we need that. I don't know, but that's like another issue. I'm here, and I demonstrate for fit parents who should never have been ordered to pay so-called child support. Okay, like me, and millions of others who had their right to parenthood violated by a crooked judge.
That's the situation that we're all in. But if you want to change, right, the way I think, if you want to change, you're gonna be coming up with proposals. Like when I go to the office of my representative, they ask me, what's your proposal? What do you have? Because they don't want me to just tell them the problem. They go research. So you come to them, for example, and say, well, this is how you're doing it right now, and this is what I think you should be doing it right now.
Well, now maybe I'm trying to get you to understand that what you should be asking them is why they're not filing articles of impeachment against, like the judge in your case and other cases, who violate the Constitution, denied you of your God-given right to be a parent. The judge should be impeached. Either that or charged with the federal crime of acting under color of law, Title 18, Section 242. See, that's why it's so fundamental that we have to understand the law before we go seeking reform, because we don't need new laws. The law The Constitution and the Bill of Rights is all the law we need. The judges need to follow those 10 amendments of the Constitution.
Right, Mark. So yeah, that's another point, and I mean this is another topic of discussion. I don't know if you were the one telling me, or somebody was telling me that the new justice, the Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch, one thing that he says is that an attack on one judge is an attack on all.
Oh well, no, I'm sorry. That's bullshit.
Yeah. So no. But
that's bullshit.
Okay. So let me say, let me tell you though. So now when you're talking about complaining, right? You're complaining when you're talking about complaining about a judge. Where are you going to find anything, about a judge? Because where on what court? Maybe there's nothing. You have like the Department of Justice, right? If they run that way, just like you will be asking essentially somebody to judge themselves, which they're telling you if the mentality is like that, right? An attack on one is an attack on all. So essentially, they're protecting themselves. They're shooting themselves.
But that's a false premise. An attack on one is not. Judges get fired and impeached. Okay, crooked judges have gone to jail. There was a famous case in Pennsylvania, I think it was, the guy, Kids for Cash thing. They were running these judges were running, I think, juvenile detention centers or something, private industry, and they were making money from putting kids in jail.
Okay, so so I don't know. Let me rephrase the question. I mean, we have like three branches of government, right? We have the Congress, the courts, and the executive branch, right? So what you really be asking in that case is for one branch to judge themselves, or judge themselves. You think that it would be a fair thing?
Well, I mean, right now, Don Rufty he's a well-known family rights activist from North Carolina, who is he's got a petition for President Trump to sign an executive order that would, the executive branch, in other words, he's the one supposed to be cracking the whip to get the Department of Justice or the FBI to do their job and go after crooked judges. And so that's a perfect example of one branch going after another branch. That's one of the checks and balances we're supposed to have. But there is so much corruption throughout the whole system that whether that's going to happen, I don't know. Until we start getting thousands of people down here on a regular basis, it may not happen. So that's why, this is the court. Our court systems are corrupt through and through. The appeals courts rubber stamp the lower courts. They're all crooked. And even the federal judges, too. A lot of them. Not all judges are bad, but I think enough of them are that we can say that the whole system is polluted, corrupted, just criminal. And so this is the court of public opinion right now. We're holding court here today. John and I are holding court. No, you laugh. He laughs, but that's the way. The people are sovereign, okay? And that's what, if you're listening to this, you got to understand that. Until you get your butt away from the computer and go out and start complaining. Petitioning the government for redress in numbers, like they just did in Contra Costa County, California. God bless them. They had a great demonstration of the people holding court in the streets. Okay, the court of public opinion. That's the only court we have, people. That's why it's the First Amendment. And if we don't use it, we're going to lose that too. We're in an information war these days. That's why, InfoWars took that name, because they realized that the mass media are not doing their job. We have fake news, you know, on ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, most of them, even PBS. They're all basically mouthpieces for the government. And they're not doing their jobs. And the information is not getting out there about the millions of parents who had their kids stolen. Why? Because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. The bar members, they don't want it found out. And apparently there's enough collusion between the barbarians and the prostitutes that we don't get our issues heard. So unless we get out here in the streets and at our state capitals and at this capital, it's going to continue. So it's up to you people. It's up to all of us. We are the sovereigns. The people are the sovereigns. That's what the Bill of Rights is all about. Nothing is new. This has all happened before. This was happening before the Revolutionary War. You read the Declaration of Independence. They were eating out our substance. Foreign officers coming to eat out our substance, tell us how to live, what to do, trying to take our guns like they're doing now. There's nothing new. This shit's all happened before. People learn some history. You got to learn some history. Understand what is happening today. You know, this whole town is something I want to say about D.C. It's such a beautiful city, right? We've got all these magnificent buildings with grand facades. You go in the Capitol there, and they've got, John and I were talking about, they try to make George Washington into a god. He's ascending up to heaven, you know. And then they act like gods in there. They think they're gods. They think if a majority of them vote on something that, by God, they can do it. No, they can't. Federalist, number 78. Read that. Any act that goes against the jurisdiction of that created that legislative body is void. Otherwise, the people who originally formed this Constitution, they become the slaves, and that's where we are now. We've become slaves because we've let our servants become our masters. Our court systems, they're our servants. They're our public servants. They're there to serve us. We are the sovereigns. People, if you don't understand that, then you need to start studying some history and understand what this country is supposed to be about. Because we're losing it.
Yeah, I got to agree with you with some of that, Mark. Especially the people that work on the system, the psychologists and the attorneys, and even the judges. You know, they because the system works so well for them, they're making tons of money, and in all of this, they're making a killing. Psychologists are making tons of money. Family law attorneys are making tons of money. Even judges are making tons of money. And the people that are not making the money are the parents. The parents are losing everything in this. And the children, they say that everything that they do is for the best interest of the children. Now, how can it be in the best interest of the children when the parents are virtually broke? When the parents don't have any money now. Now, since all the money is spent on judges and courts and psychologists and attorneys, you know, so I don't think that that is in the best interest of the children. But what Mark is saying, the fact that these professionals are not doing, they don't actually want to do anything to change the system, even though they know, I know that in their mind, in their hearts, they know that whatever they're doing is not good, and whatever they're doing is not good for the children or for the families. but they will not do anything to change it because number one, they're making tons of money, and number two, they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want they don't want to be the people that are doing anything against the system. And I talked to on my personal case, I have had to talk to some attorneys about this, and they told me that, well, we don't even want to take your case because we don't want to do anything. We don't want to do anything that would make our reputation look bad. We don't do anything to endanger our reputation or make it look bad. It's as simple as that, because the judge, the attorney wants to appear like he's a good person at court, because he has to come in front of the same judge with different other cases. And if he makes an attorney mad on one case, if he makes the judge mad on one case, the judge is probably gonna not like him in other cases or rule against him in other cases. So for that reason, the attorneys are very conservative. They're very reserved. They don't, even though the issues that they know are not right, they won't say it. They won't file certain things at court just because they want to protect their business. I don't know if that, maybe that makes sense for them, but it certainly doesn't make sense for the people that are involved in it. It doesn't make sense for the families that are punished, and it doesn't make sense for the children that are punished that way. So that's what I think. All right.
Thanks, John. Good conversation.